Movies can be adapted from anything. Books, TV shows, plays, video games, toys, other movies, hell, even theme park rides are all things that have been turned into movies, but some have an easier time than others. My name is Steven, and welcome to Hot Strike. It's truly amazing how many movies come from something else. When you think of book adaptations, you immediately think of the obvious ones, like The Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, but even movies like The Godfather, Jaws, and Shawshank Redemption were all adapted from books. TV shows like the Mission Impossible show from the 60s have also been transformed into huge movie franchises, and even more movies are based on plays and differ drastically in how much they attempt to convert them to film. Some just look like a traditional play that happened to be filmed, and others are directed by Baz Luhrmann.
Adler's excrement in urinal! Go rock! The boys!
Then there are movies adapted from video games that have mostly been flops up until the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Even children's toys like G.I. Joe's have had their own bland action movies, and I think Barbie is going to end up being one of the biggest hits of this summer. It's hard to believe that even the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise started as a theme park ride. For most of my life, I thought the movie inspired the ride, but nope, the ride was around first. Hell, movies themselves aren't safe from being adapted or just rebooted. My life would not be the same without Ocean's 11, but it's just a reboot of Frank Sinatra's Ocean 11 that came out in 1960. And if reboots weren't a thing, most of Hollywood would be bankrupt. I do often find myself seeing something and thinking, wow, that'd be a great movie. But movies constantly being derived from other source material makes them feel unoriginal and lazy. The constant cycle of reboots, sequels, and adaptations being turned into cinematic universes is exhausting, but this problem is never going away. This is every movie I watched that was released in 2022. If I remove every movie that was a sequel, documentary, biopic, or adaptation of something else, this is what is left. Not a whole lot. Hollywood loves making movies based on other source material because before the movie even starts production, they know how many fans already exist for their movie and more importantly, how much money it could make. Now this video is not going to argue if this is good or bad. All art forms find inspiration in other works. It's just how people make art. People see other stuff and use it in their stuff. Monkey see, monkey do. Today I want to find what source adapts best into movies and how much work is required to make it a good movie. Let's start with books, the easy favorite for the best thing to be adapted into movies. By far the hardest part of making a movie is writing a good story. So what better place to look than a book that contains a complete and fully realized story, then just steal that story. Filmmaking involves a combination of pretty much every art form. Visual storytelling, music, choreography, acting, and at the center of all of that is the story. It's a lot of stuff to keep track of for a filmmaker. Trying to balance all these things while dealing with the business side of making a movie is incredibly difficult. Writing itself is just hard. Even people who are good at it struggle. And I'm looking at you, George R. R. Martin. Please just write faster.
Yes, there is something I want to ask you. All right. How the fuck do you write so many books so fast?
So as a filmmaker, using a book as a basis of your film is incredibly enticing because the hardest part is already done. The Lord of the Rings trilogy is one of the best film trilogies of all time and is an incredible rendition of J.R. Tolkien's books. The film stayed faithful to the book and were able to bring to life Tolkien's incredibly in-depth descriptions of everything, ranging from the food to the epic battles. And we can't forget there is an entire elven language he created as well. So, all the world building is already done before the script is even written. Peter Jackson was able to focus the production's time, energy, and money on developing new technologies and practices to make the film be the best it could be. Every single department was able to use Tolkien's work as a starting point. Costumes, set design, location scouting, and casting all had a shared vision to work from, with Jackson steering the ship. All this hard work to bring Tolkien's amazing story to life as accurately as possible made The Lord of the Rings one of the most successful film trilogies of all time. But book adaptations can still be messed up, and the Hobbit films are the perfect example. After the critical and commercial success for the Lord of the Rings movies, it was obvious that the studios were going to want to make more movies set in Middle-earth. I mean, my god, Return of the King won 11 Oscars and made like $1 billion. Luckily for them, Tolkien had written other stories, so they set their eyes on The Hobbit. However, The Hobbit is one book compared to the 3 that made up The Lord of the Rings. Without considering money, it would make the most sense to just convert the 300-page book into a single movie. But to make as much money as possible, they decided to stretch this one book into 3 huge movies. This resulted in the movies feeling bloated and without direction. Peter Jackson wasn't given the same amount of prep time compared to the pre-production process for Lord of the Rings, so the movie suffered.
And with little or possibly no preparation, we jumped straight into doing previs for The Hobbit.
I spent so much of The Hobbit feeling like I was not on top of it.
And so did Peter. Just look at this poor guy. And most importantly, the story suffered. The film had to create plots and characters that were absent from the book so they could make 3 full movies. These additions often felt out of place or cheapened the core story that was originally in The Hobbit, which made the series simply not as good. These days, with cinematic universes, movies often feel like glorified TV episodes, and TV shows have on many occasions been adapted into movies. It's hard to believe, but the Mission Impossible movie started out as a simple TV show back in the 60s and 80s. TV shows don't necessarily offer an entire story that can be adapted like books, books, but they do offer a more complete vibe that can be converted into a movie. Behind writing a script, developing the unique feel for a movie or franchise is the next hardest part, and when adapting a TV show, you can just take the best parts and throw it into a movie, which is exactly what Mission Impossible did. The movie franchise used the same iconic soundtrack and spy team as the backbone for the film franchise. Even the "this tape will self-destruct in 5 seconds" cliche is in the original show.
This disc will self-destruct in 5 seconds. Good luck, Jim.
This message will self-destruct in 5 seconds.
And with the show having a total of 207 episodes between its run in the 60s and 80s, there was a solid fan base that would recognize the brand and go see the movie. However, having a name that the audience recognizes does not always guarantee viewership. Many famous theater plays have been adapted into movies, but they do not often make the transition gracefully. Most Shakespearean plays like Romeo and Juliet and Hamlet have had many renditions, especially since the very first filmmakers got their start in theater, and today that's still a common pipeline for people working in the film industry. Old films themselves are more like plays than modern movies due to limitations of cameras at that time. George Méliès's A Trip to the Moon plays out entirely on what looks like a stage, and the camera records from a position that feels like you're sitting in the audience watching a play. Plays, TV shows, and books offer a lot of material for filmmakers to adapt, but sometimes, regardless of the amount of adaptable material, it still doesn't work out. Video games have dethroned movies as the big dog of entertainment and make more money than the movie and music industry combined. So obviously, Hollywood is going to try and make movies based on video games to get their slice of this huge pie. But games have a unique form of storytelling. The player is actively part of the story, which sometimes makes a video game movie feel extremely hollow once the player is replaced with some shallow protagonist. And filmmakers are just now figuring out how to convert beloved game stories into a movie that gamers will go and watch. When adapting things, fans respond best to faithful recreation to add to the source material. All this said, I think the Barbie movie coming out this summer is posturing to be one of the best movies based on the famous brand. Immediately, that sounds insane. I have listed off plenty of world-class book and TV show adaptations so far in this video, but a movie based on a children's toy has so little to work with and a million preconceived notions that it must overcome. From the trailer alone, the Barbie movie seems to be funny, fit for a large audience, and accurately portrays the brand it is based on. Not only does it have an accurate portrayal of Barbie, which starts with a great casting of Margot Robbie, but also Ryan Gosling as Ken. They look like the toys they are based on, and so do the costumes and the production design. My only worry about the movie so far is that the story is just too basic. Already, it feels like Elf. Barbie and Buddy leave their magical world that they grew up in to take on the real world, and slowly lose their belief in the magical world they are from. But thanks to some life-changing moment, their belief is reignited and so is the magic. The end. And, well, Will Ferrell's in both.
Catastrophic!
Now, I know I'm basing all of this just off the trailer and sneak peeks, but the movie looks way better than I would have ever imagined. This movie seems like it could be fun for kids and adults, especially since it's making jokes like this.
Just one appendectomy,
But I'm a man.
but not a doctor.
Can I talk to a doctor?
You are talking to a doctor.
I need a clicky pen?
No.
A sharp thing?
No.
There he is. Doctor!
Somebody get security.
If I wasn't severely injured, I would beat you off right now, Ken. I'll beat you off with you any day, Ken.
Anyone who wants to beat him off has to beat me off first. I will beat both of you off at the same time.
Beats both of us off?
Nobody's gonna beat anyone off.
The trailer even goes out of its way to say, if you love or hate Barbie, this movie is for you, which is a great marketing tagline. However, I do think books are the best thing to adapt into movies. The story is already finished and filmmakers get to focus their energy on making the rest of the movie be the best it can be. But books are also the easiest thing to adapt. Adapting something like Barbie takes a lot of legwork. A story based around a brand immediately has a lot of hoops it must jump through, which makes most movies of this type feel like a long commercial rather than an actual movie. When writing a movie based on Barbie, there are a million story possibilities. But when you sit down to make a Lord of the Rings movie, you know exactly what needs to happen to make the movie be the best it can be, which makes adapting a brand much more difficult. It'd be like trying to make a movie about Dr. Pepper. You must create a whole story around a brand that had previously contained zero backstory, yet still somehow is faithful to the brand itself. Who is Dr. Pepper? What is he like? What type of story would he fit into? Does Dr. Pepper fight Mr. Pibb? What type of doctor is he? All these types of questions have to be answered to make a movie about a faceless brand. If Barbie delivers on the hype the trailer has created, I think it will be the best branded movie adaptation of all time. Thanks to how well it took an established brand like Barbie and created a good movie while still faithfully sticking to what made people like the brand in the first place. Hey, Steven from the future here. Don't mind how, just listen, I don't have much time. After finishing this video, I learned that there's actually a shit ton of deep Barbie lore out there I didn't know about. It's not quite Sonic level of crazy, but there is plenty the movie could adapt. So, it has the potential to not just be the best brand adaptation of all time, but the best adaptation of all time if it does the following. 1. Use deep Barbie lore to actually tell a good story. 2. Engage a wide-ranging audience. And 3. Burn every remaining copy of any Lord of the Rings related material. And there you have it, how it can become the best adaptation of all time. time. Oh, and past Steven, hit the gym, you fat. My name is Steven, and this has been Hot String. If you have a movie or TV show you'd like to see a video about, comment down below. Thanks for watching.